the most underrated sale in America, ranked #1 by percentage of stakes winners, stakes horses, and 2-year-old winners. Precocious yearlings selected on pedigree and superior conformation, plus a showcase of the freshman sires of 2025. Recent grads include Grade 1 winners Chancer McPatrick and Carson's Run, with a growing list of graded stakes winners. Buy smarter, buy earlier, buy in July. The Fasig-Tipton July sale of selected yearlings. July 8th in Lexington, Kentucky. Where will you be?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Horse Races Now podcast. We're getting Kenny on the move here, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to see some work in real time. Kenny, what's happening, my man?
I'm here at Magdalena. We've had a busy week. It's 4th of July weekend coming up here. We got quite a few balls in the air. It was at Keeneland this morning, and we're getting ready to walk outside and look at a group of yearlings.
Awesome.
That we are that we're handling. They're making decisions on what sale they're going to go to. Come on, Sonny, let's go.
So, Kenny, these are your yearlings?
Where'd you go? Come on, help. He's
there he
on
is.
out.
Hey,
Come
Sonny.
on, big dog. Let's go. These are horses that were raised here at Magdalena, 2 in particular owned by Scott Leeds. And we're doing a little evaluation of them to make decisions on which sale they go into.
Yep.
And so, these are constant things we deal with. So this is, let's see. Let me flip the script here.
Yeah.
This is a filly by Mendelssohn out of a mare named Jewel Princess, three-time stakes winner. Just stand up straight there. And this is a filly that looks like we're going to talk about the possibility of keeping her and racing her, and she may very well end up being a Magdalena partnership horse. Go ahead, down and back, please.
Kenny, what are you looking at right here?
Well, we're looking at efficiency and balance, how a horse moves through itself. This mare was by Cairo Prince. I'm sorry, Cairo Prince that stood at Airdrie, Jewel Princess. And then she was a galloping type and would make a big run, and she won several small stakes. And then Mendelssohn he's a half brother to Into Mischief from Leslie's Lady, was a top horse for Coolmore. And this actually is a pretty good looking filly. We're contemplating whether to put her in the October sale, sell her, or keep her and race her. And I think we're inclined to partner her out and let some people come in on a Magdalena partnership on this filly.
Kenny,
okay,
if you were to sell her, what type of money would that filly bring?
I would say she's in the 75 to 100 range. I mean, she's a good looking filly.
Good pedigree.
That exam's clear on her, Alan? Clear? Yeah. So, she'd be in the 75 to 100. Mendelssohn's not what I would call light hot as a stallion, but he's consistent. He's had some good horses, but maybe he hadn't had that signature top horse. So this is a Candy Rod filly out of a mare named Marquis Dream. Marquis Dream was a bit unlucky. She got injured as a 2-year-old, never made the races. And this is it's her first foal, isn't it?
Our first one was a gun runner that sold for $300,000.
Oh yeah, so she's had a gun runner out of herself for $300,000, and this is her second foal. Is that right, Alan? Okay, go ahead and down and back, please. But it's got a really great pedigree. It's a Runnymede farm. This is a very typical Candy Rod, in that they have a certain look to them. But he contributes a lot of speed to the equation, and thus, we all need speed in racehorses, right?
Oh yeah.
But she's a little shorter in the front, and she doesn't look a whole lot like her mother at all. Marquis Dream, Scat Daddy. we're all. I don't have the pages in front of me, but I do like the way she shows and
Got frost.
frosted. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you. We're also going to need to see favorite day, and then we got some others we're going to look at. This is Alan, farm manager.
You want to do that then?
Yeah. Do we have a couple other ones we were going to look at?
You just want to see those two. So
Let me finish with Teague, and then we'll cycle back with a few others. All right, Teague, I'm going to go back in the office.
I love it. Our viewers and listeners got to see a little inside baseball there, Kenny. Pretty cool.
Yeah, this is we grade the young horses this time of year. We're going to start working the yearling sale on Saturday, which we've got a group of people that are interested in acquiring there. We hadn't bought any horses since last fall because I don't work the 2-year-old in training sales.
Right.
And so we've kind of held our powder, and we've got some new people that are looking to participate. Sonny doesn't want to come back in.
Don't blame him.
I don't know. It's hot out there.
Yeah, it's a good point. It is July.
Yeah.
So, Kenny, I have to start here. Dean Wayne Lukas, obviously a dear friend of yours. Any stories, any words you want to share there?
Well, he'll be sorely missed. I know that. Just a real special man. I'm saddened for him. I'm glad he didn't suffer. I know that he'd been dealing with some things, but I've spent 15, nearly 20 summers stabled next to him in Saratoga every summer, and I think that's the biggest thing for me is that I'm not going to be able to spend. It was typically he and I on the backside at Saratoga every morning, and we were on the back line of the Oklahoma track, and we always chit-chatted and talked about racing, talked about personal, talked about anything and everything together. And he just a real special man that'll be sorely missed, and his influence is gonna be around for generations. I mean, his raising the bar in thoroughbred racing has been significant. I mean, he put a completely different approach to this sport, and I know I emulated myself as much as possible. What would Wayne do? And then at the same time, there's so many other people that worked with him as well that were he changed lives in many ways.
You had some nice interactions with him this past Derby. You got to be grateful you were able to have kind of those interactions this past, obviously a couple months before his passing.
Yeah, we always teased each other a little bit. I did kind of a dress like Wayne for the Derby Trainers dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he thought it was funny or not, but some did. But in the meantime, he's always been a good sport. I mean, he was always a guy that liked a good laugh, but let me tell you something. When you raced a horse against him, he was bound and determined to beat you. He didn't care about anything other than winning, and that's the way a lot of us are.
Well, he's going to be sorely missed. Obviously, an icon in the horse racing industry. So, we wanted to make sure. I knew that you guys were close, so wanted to make sure we touched on that before we moved on.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so Torpedo Anna had a nice win. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, thrilled. We got her back into winning form. There wasn't, for me, the only reason she lost that race Derby week was because she got mugged in the first turn. I don't think there's any question that incident in the first turn caused all that. And she, for best we could tell, she got the breath knocked out of her. And, it's the only blemish on her race record ever, other than a couple of seconds. And so, to get her back to winning is a big deal. And, I'd like to think we could get her to horse of the year status again. But right now we're just kind of taking, as we should, one race at a time. And the next race will be another grade 1, the personal ensign at Saratoga on August 23rd, that for those out there that want to mark their schedules.
So that was a question we had got from Marianne, who claims to be Torpedo Anna's #1 fan from Buffalo, New York. She's wanting to know, are you going to go ahead and move her up to Saratoga?
She is going to come to Magdalena here Put a little more light in the room here. She's coming to Magdalena here probably this weekend, and we're going to probably give her 3 or 4 days here at the farm, and she's got a big luxury stall she occupies when she's here, and we'll let her have a few days here, and then she'll probably truck to Saratoga on July 8th or 9th. Right now, we've got to sort that detail out, but best guess she'll leave on the morning of the 8th.
Gotcha.
It gives her 6 full weeks in Saratoga before any notion to run her.
Love it. Talk to me about Mystic Dan. He obviously raced this past weekend as well. Not as favorable as Torpedo Anna, but ran a good race.
I thought it was a good race. That was a group of the best older horses in the nation, maybe in the world, certainly dirt in the world. And he ran respectable. He didn't get beat but a length and a half. And we've kind of looked at the pace of that race. Could we have been closer? Should we have been closer? Mind frame ran huge.
Yeah.
It seemed to me that the horses that finished second and third really kind of dictate. Well, first and third dictated the pace of the race.
Yep.
And maybe we should have. Hindsight, hard to say. But look, he certainly fits with that group, and we're proud of his effort. And he definitely, he's not far off the best horses in the nation. So I do think we're going to look back, and that's an excellent group of older horses that are running right now.
What's next for Mystic Dan?
Good question. Right now, I'm going to probably space his races pretty good. I'm not planning on running him until sometime in September right now. There's some options if I wanted to go west or north. But right now, he is going to probably go to Saratoga on the same truck as Torpedo, and we will let them get in a routine up there. I'd like to try him on the turf at some point in time because I think he'd like it, but that decision hadn't been made. So we will take our time with him. We got plenty of time.
Any other? I know you had a big weekend with a lot of horses running. Was there any other notable races this past weekend?
Well, Native Runner ran second in the American Derby on the grass, and that's a horse that really seems to be figuring it out.
Awesome.
He's got every race he seems to be improving, and he always trained like a really nice young horse, but yet he had a really hard time, what I'd call figuring it out. And then we ran him for 50,000 claiming, which we probably got lucky we didn't lose him, but he ran well, won, and then since then he's done nothing but run good races.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Blackout Time might be another top 2-year-old gonna take us to maybe, fingers crossed, Classics or Breeders' Cup this fall. He's a horse that has trained like a beast every day, and you're going to hear that name, Blackout Time.
Blackout Time. That's the first I think you've mentioned it on the podcast, though.
Yeah. We've had a little 2-year-old filly named Sugaree run second also in a auction maiden race, and then beyond that, and we've moved some horses to Colonial Downs for the summer. They're settled in over there now. And then we've got obviously the group in Saratoga, and right now it's a bit of musical race horses, and then we're having to move trucks here and there. And then this weekend, Gould's Gold's in the Cornhusker at Prairie Meadows, and then Corning Stone is a familiar name. She's running in the Iowa Distaff, and then we've got a 2-year-old filly named Best Friend that's one of the morning line favorites in the Prairie Gold Lassie, which is a 2-year-old filly race. So there's a lot of action.
A lot of young horses. Sounds like.
Yeah, a filly named the Grumpy Rabbit is running at Saratoga for Ed Anthony, and that's a filly that trains like a good thing. She don't be surprised if she gallops on.
Ooh, okay, Grumpy Rabbit. That's a cool name.
And the tattoo's healing, so we're getting good there.
I was gonna ask, man, has it been hurting at all, or?
It gets itchy.
Yeah.
But for those that have had tattoos, I think they know that process, but it's getting there.
So now that you've had it for a little bit of time, no regrets?
None.
I love it.
None whatsoever. Love it. I've had a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. All right. So I want to thank our listeners because we've had a lot of great questions, a lot of great comments. I'd like to hit on a few of these, Kenny, before we get you out of the day. I know you have a busy day. All right. First question. I have about 2 months of experience currently working as a hot walker, moving towards becoming a groom at the moment, as a future goal of becoming an independent trainer. His questions. When entering a horse into a race, can you typically see the horses that have already entered in the race prior to you entering your horse? And do you do research or handicapping on the races before entering?
No, unless it's a stake race, you get a pretty good idea who's going to run. But an average everyday race, a maiden race, claiming race, allowance race, you don't get any pre-entry names. The racing office is supposed to keep those secure to themselves, and they they're supposed to hold that close to the vest. But no, you other than a stake race, you've got an idea who's going to run. You can get the past performances, you can check the PPs, and then you can figure out whether you fit or not. But otherwise, no, you can't see those before you enter.
And that makes sense, right? I mean, because you wouldn't want people handicapping and saying, oh, well, I'm not going to run in this race because this horse is in it. You wouldn't get full fields, I don't think. So it makes sense to not show people.
Well, I think that there are a lot of trainers that worry about their win percentage, and if they see the pre-entries, then they won't enter because they might see a horse that they're scared of.
Right.
And so the racing offices are a little sensitive to all that, and that they want the races to fill. If everybody got a pre-look, then half of them wouldn't enter. So
yeah,
you've got to draw the line somewhere.
And as they mentioned, their goal is to become a trainer down the line. So if I were to train 5 horses and were to groom, hot walk, and exercise for all the horses as well, what do you think the pay could look like? And what's the best way to start there if he wants to become a trainer?
Well, first of all, if you're hot walking, that's great. And graduate. Most people graduate to groom pretty quickly if they're they're a quick study, but you need to really have some education when it comes to business. You need to take some business classes, some accounting classes. Definitely need to understand how to handle people and deal with people. There's so much more to it than just handling a horse. I myself, I like to say I've got a degree in business finance and accounting, but I use it because I know how to look at a balance sheet and I know how to handle a check register. Payables, receivables are relatively simple, but when you're training horses, you have to math all that out. I went through a stage when I was a young trainer that I had a local businessman haggle me down to $23 a day per horse, and this was in the late 80s, and I didn't have any horses to train, so I had to do the deal. And what I learned is that I had to figure out how much hay cost and how much the feed cost and how much the straw cost and how much the stall cost and how much the rider would cost and the hot walker. What I found is that I was taking care of most of those horses myself, and I needed to break even on the monthly training bill. And not only that, you bill the first of the month, and then you don't get your 1 second.
No worries.
You invoice the first of the month, and you might not get paid to the end of the month. So the cash doesn't move all that quickly. And so that's my daughter's trying to call me here. So that's a tricky one. And learning how to math it all out is a really big deal. And it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, balancing books and making sure you're making money. Now, I didn't make much money early in my career. And for that matter, I'm going to tell you, I pretty much didn't make much money at all. I was lucky if I made, probably was lucky if I made $500 a week in the first 5 to 7 years that I trained. I had to win to earn purses or the commission from purses. And then at the end of every month, I was chasing bills. And even today, we have a lot of cash flow movement and things that are part of running an operation. And of course, we're doing it at a really high level right now. But we've got tractors and trucks and mortgages and equipment and tax bills and feed bills and payrolls, and taxes. All the taxes have to be correct on all these paychecks, making sure they're taxed in the right state. So there's a lot to deal with, and for any young person, then the matter is you got to get good horses to handle. So it's a big mountain to climb. Suggestion is, I don't know who you're working for, but learn as much as you can, then you've got to, when you go out on your own, you've got to really figure out how you're going to sustain it. And that's the hard part.
Spitting knowledge there, Kenny. I love it. Remind us, you've been over this probably several times in this podcast, but maybe for a listener who might be new, what was your first big break? You're really setting this up great. And I've got another, somebody who's new to the business has some questions here. So you're really giving some knowledge to some people that are wanting to be kind of do what you do. What was your first big break? From $500 a week, what horse, what happened to really kind of set things in motion for you?
Well, and he might be shocked to hear this, or Teddy Mims sent me, this is a local businessman and longtime friend of mine here in Lexington, sent me two very inexpensive horses that his other trainer didn't want. And this is back in the probably 1986 or 87. And I got those horses ready and won with both of them. And his other trainer, after I won with him, wanted them back.
Right.
And he actually picked them up. And then through a couple series of events, I ended up taking the job of Teddy's other trainer. And Teddy gave me, at the time he owned Castleview Farm, which is a small training center off Versailles Road there on Shannon Run in Lexington.
Yep.
And I was primarily handling everything for Teddy. And that was the first decent group of horses that I ever handled. We had a mare named Lucky Lydia. And then Lucky Lydia, she was stakes filly. Didn't win any stakes for Teddy, but we ran well in a bunch of them. And that was kind of my first taste of better horses. And then, I mean, there's so many other people. I mean, Roy Monroe gave me a break with a few. Ray Cottrell was a man that was a big influence on me personally and professionally. I could give you Tahano Run was a break that I really needed. That horse took me to my first Kentucky Derby.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Cottrell gave me a few horses that had real talent. Those are probably the early breaks that I got. And even today, I've had a lot of really good breaks. I mean, I've been very fortunate to have met with people. You go on and on. Scott Leeds, Mike Mackin, Harold Lerner, Peter Callahan, Paul Fireman has been a really great client to have. I know I'm missing a lot of people, but every client everyone that gives you an opportunity, I look at it as a gift. And if you do a good job for them, then you're hopeful that they continue to give you budget to be able to go to the sale. Guy named Paul Bach years back was Take Charge Lady and Repent, and his son Jerry. They were a decent budget too, but I did a good job for them, so they I got more. So it's been a real adventure journey.
I love it, and a lot of great connections there. It sounds like, and that's kind of the key, is making those connections that have lasted throughout your career. So, again, spitting some great knowledge there. So, the next question, this is from an assistant starter for Charlestown in Maryland Jockey Club. Kenny, what is your opinion as a trainer about the gates, gate work, and schooling, more or less?
More standing, backing out, making them familiar. I'm not one to overdo the breaking from the gate. I think you need to teach a horse to jump clean and then settle. I've never been a 4 or 5 furlong or even as much of a 6 furlong trainer. I'm more of a mile plus. But the biggest thing is a horse needs to be able to walk in, stand, and be calm. That they need to just have some composure about them, and a lot of standing and backing out and opening doors and closing doors and people in and out. Just make it old hat, routine, normal. You can't rush a horse through gate process. You have to take their time. We do gate work or gate processes at Silverleaf with Dominic Brennan, where they learn to walk through, they learn to stand, they learn to close doors, they learn to open doors, they learn to gallop out. And every crop will have 1 or 2 difficult horses. more difficult than others. Not any different than students in a classroom. Some of them are great students, some of them are bad. And the bad students need a little more attention, and the good students don't. So it is a process, but I think more is better. The more they see the gate, the better.
So the second part of this question, and that was from Mike. Mike wants to know if you ever plan on bringing anything to the Charlestown Classic.
I would love to. Maybe we bring Gould's Gold over this year. I haven't spent much time over there at Charlestown. I mean, I think I've run a horse over the course of my career here or there, but I've actually never been there. It's typically a racetrack that maybe we'd come in for a stake or so, but I know that there's a really solid group of horsemen. Actually, I sell a few to guys over there that aren't going to work out at Keeneland or Churchill or wherever we might be. But maybe I'll make it over there at some point. But I think it runs in August, so the timing's rough.
Got it. Okay, couple silly questions here, at least the listener says.
We like those too.
What is it with horses' ears? I heard up is good, down is good, and vice versa. For instance, I recently heard a commentator describe a win as the jockey was down and so were the horse's ears. And another time ears were up described as a good thing. So what is it with their ears, Kenny?
Well, I think when a horse's ears are up, they're utilizing their eyesight to see something. Usually, I don't think that's abnormal at all. Also, ears pinned is kind of like a scowl, and so for example, Torpedo Anna is a filly that tends to throw her ears back and look at you a little cross-eyed, like, "Hey, kind of leave me alone." But that's her sassiness. And she is naturally sassy. Did you lose my video?
We do, yeah. It looks like we lost your video there, Kenny.
Let me see if I can get you back.
There we go.
Yeah. Annie is trying to call. And when Annie wants something,
she's relentless, huh?
She's called me 6 times since we've been on here.
Yeah, I understand. Well,
but anyway, but I think that, definitely ears is a personality trait, or any person around a horse should pay attention to a horse's ears, because you can see a horse can be looking at you and pin its ears and be ready to kick you.
Okay.
So if you see that ear go back, like if you're on the left side and that left ear goes back and you're near the hind leg, suggestion, get away.
Yeah.
And so they're very perceptive, and I think they utilize their eyes and their ears together. Right. And a good horse person recognizes this.
Yeah, makes sense.
And
so
it can see a look on a horse's face, happy or mad or sad. Yeah.
So
the more you know a horse, the more you pick up on those subtle details.
So ears up is a good thing.
Ears up usually means a horse is happy, or they're focusing on something, or they hear a sound, and so they're looking, and they'll point their ears to whatever they're looking at.
So the second part of their question is, since horses are prey animals in the wild, and their vision, I assume, is instrumental to their survival, why do racehorses put up with blinkers that restrict their sight?
Well, I like that. We don't use blinkers much.
Yeah, you don't use them much at all, do you?
No, I mean, I can't give you a handful of races, stake races I ever won with blinkers on. I believe a good horse looks another horse in the eye and challenges it with its eyes. When they can't see, I think it's maybe a bad thing. I've never had a really good horse that had to have blinkers, or that improved dramatically with blinkers on. Us trainers need excuses, and you can blame the jockey. You can say the horse needs Lasix, or you can say the horse needs blinkers, or you say the horse needs turf or dirt or longer or shorter or whatever it might be. And to some extent, I think there is a bit of overuse of blinkers, but every trainer's different, and you have to try everything. You can't just bury your head in sand and say not try blinkers. Actually, I probably do bury my head in the sand a little bit and not try blinkers. But at some point, when you're reaching a plateau with a horse and you can't get them to run any better than they've been running, it's never a bad idea to try them. But like I said, I don't think most racehorses, thrive on seeing the other horses. Now, one thing I'll throw in to finish this, I never run a young horse with blinkers on the first 3 starts. because I want them to see the whole scenery. I want them to be able to see everything. I don't want them closed where they only see a forward. I want them to be able to see the horses to the left, horses to the right, feel the dirt, you know, the whole atmosphere, the whole process of racing a horse. They need to learn that there's a lot of things going on around them. Now, if they're ducking and diving and they're really spooky from it all, well, I can understand. But even then, I wouldn't run in blinkers because they need to learn. They need to get used to that. They need to see it all.
Yeah.
Don't hide it from them.
Makes sense.
That's just my opinion. So.
I love it. Makes sense. All right, a few more here, and we'll get you back to your to looking at your yearlings there. So, one listener says that they prefer the Ocala breeder sales for 2-year-olds in trainings. What's your thoughts there?
I've pretty much discontinued working 2-year-old in training sales. I've had luck at them over the years. I just really prefer yearlings. I think it's a better, longer process, but I think it's better. I find it hard to understand how, hundreds of horses are ready to work on the same weekend over the same track.
Right.
And I just find it hard that timing. And, there'll be some 2-year-old consigners that are going, damn it, Kenny, would you shut up? No, we're trying to sell these horses. I got it. But it's just worked better for me, yearlings. And for me, there are trainers that really like the 2-year-old sales because they think they get a better look at them. I'm just a yearling guy, and it's worked for me, and that's what I'm sticking to. But yeah, I did not even step foot on a 2-year-old in training sale this year, whether it was phasing or OBS. And I don't suspect that I'll be doing it next year either. And we're going to focus in on our yearling markets. And the horses that are bought as yearlings are pretty much the same horses that end up in the 2-year-old sales. So I've, in many cases, already looked at most of these horses with Dominic or whomever. So it would actually be a second look. And if I couldn't buy the horse or didn't like the horse as a yearling, what makes me think I'm going to like it as a 2-year-old? Now, there are very, very good 2-year-olds that come out of these 2-year-old in training sales. And at the same time, you've got to pay a premium over and above what they were sold for as yearlings. So if you can make the investment early, you're going to have some failure, but at the same time, you're not going to have to pay 3 or 4 times what that horse sold as a yearling for. So it's it's a personal preference. And like I said, I'm a big proponent of the phasing Tipton yearling sale, which starts this weekend, and then we'll do August phasing, and then we'll do Keeneland September, and then we'll go back to phasing in October, and scatter some international sales in there. But those 2-year-old sales, they're not for me, but they're for others for sure.
Shout out Phasic Timpton there. All right, 2 more, Kenny, and we're not going to get to all of our questions this week, our listeners. So please continue to send them. You guys are what make our show great. So
keep rolling. I'm not in any big hurry.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll do 3 more.
Okay.
And the way this is framed, I hope this is a thing. Somebody just asked, how is instant impact training?
He's good. Talk about horses that need a little more gate work. He has had a tendency to rear up behind the gate, rear up inside the gate. He has been getting extra attention at the gate. Right now, we're hopeful that we'll have him ready for the 20th of July at Saratoga. He's a lovely horse. He outworks everything he works against, but his gate manners are not there yet. So we've been spending. He probably goes either every day or every other day, and that's just part of the process. But once he gets his gait sorted out, he'll be ready to roll.
Is this a fast horse, Kenny? We've actually had a couple questions on instant impact. I don't know if this is one individual that maybe has a stake in it or what, but is this a fast horse?
I don't know that he's a sprinter fast horse. I think he's a stayer. I think he's going to be a mile and a 16th mile and an 1/8 dirt horse.
Needs a longer
His first
race.
race will be long turf.
Got it. Long turf. Okay, cool. Kenny, do you find that young mares tend to produce their best runners early in their broodmare career, or rather when they're older?
Impossible to say. Some say that the first foal out of a young mare tends to be smaller, and we've seen that. It depends on how much time they were off the racetrack, I believe, and how much time they had to gain weight. Sometimes if you bring a mare right off the racetrack, then and they're not carrying a lot of extra weight, then maybe they do throw a smaller foal. But what you want out of a mare is a series of mares, or a mare bred to a series of stallions, so you get an idea of how she's reproducing, whether she's reproducing the sire or herself. And then yeah, it's apples and oranges as far as what each year looks like. What I do believe in is a fallow foal. Um, my father was a huge proponent of fallow foals. For those who don't know what fallow foal is, um, maybe you've heard of, in crops they'll leave a field without a crop for a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's called fallow. I'm not sure of the terminology in farming, but so the field has a year to rest. And so when a mare has a year to rest between foals, I do believe they produce a better foal because their bodies had time to recover from the first foaling, the previous foaling. Their body has time to recover and get stronger. And then when they're impregnated again, they come out with a stronger foal. And I do believe that there's some merit to that. I believe Secretariat was a fallow foal. They say there's a long list of very, very good horses that are fallow foals because the mare's been able to save a lot of energy for that foal coming out.
That's kind of fascinating. I've never heard any of that before, but
Oh yeah,
and I never would have thought of that.
Big deal. People that
Taking
breed
time.
horses
Yeah.
like we do pay attention to it. And
Wow.
Alan Shell, who's sitting across the room from me, deals with that every day. Getting mares back in foal. And sometimes mares get back in foal quickly, and sometimes it takes a while.
This last question would be interesting because we actually had a couple people reply to this one saying that these are legal and there's nothing to it. But are jockeys still using buzzers, or
No.
have
No.
stricter regulations changed things over the last 20 years?
No, absolutely. They better not be. I know that early in my career that was somewhat prevalent. Not in my world, but there were those that did use electrical devices. But for me, it was just for me it was something that didn't work anyway. So I don't know why they would do that. But anyway, but that's an old school thing, and that was something that maybe was going on 50, 60, 70 years ago. But today, I would hope that, anyone that's caught utilizing a battery is really banned for life. Should be.
So you mentioned Tejano Run earlier. The second part of this question was in the 95 Derby, Gary Stevens is seen handing something off to another jockey on the gallop out. And Kenny had Tejano Run in this race that came in second. Any thoughts on that at all?
I was in the middle of all that, and I saw what they saw, but that was a shadow, and under no circumstance did that happen.
There you
None
go.
whatsoever.
There you go. Put it to bed.
Yeah, I think he slapped hands with Pat Day on the gallop out. The notion that Pat Day would do something like that or have anything to do with it is ridiculous.
Right.
And Thunder Gulch himself was a very, very good horse. But I remember seeing some replays of the video, and the video back then wasn't as high def as it is today. It was kind of grainy.
Yep.
But you could see a shadow in his hand, but Gary, no, that was ridiculous, and it never gained any merit anywhere, anytime. And I think the last time something like that went down at a major racetrack was the Arkansas Derby with a guy named Billy Patin back in I'm not even sure what year it was, but I think, and then we had a rider in Texas that did something like that, but shame on him. But at this day and age, I think it's if it's happening, it's not happening anywhere near the world I live in or work in.
Awesome answer. All right, Kenny, we'll leave it with this. Has there been arrangements made for D. Wayne Lukas, or are you going to attend anything? Is there anything coming up, memorials or anything like that?
I have not heard that. Nobody sent me anything at this stage. Maybe they'll have a celebration of life somewhere. I don't know. Laurie, his wife, a very private person, was not she didn't have a huge circle of friends that I knew of, although we were one of them. But I don't know. I'm anxious to hear that. And Wayne, I don't think Wayne wanted anything major. I know he was baptized before he passed by Pat Day.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was fantastic. And beyond that, I have not heard anything.
Gotcha.
And so I want to touch on a couple quick things, then we'll jump off. Is that okay?
Perfect.
There's a horse out there named Tiz the Bomb that I ran in the Kentucky Derby a few years ago that we have arranged him a home at Old Friends. And I got some messages from people about someone had entered the horse in, I believe, up east, Delaware or Philadelphia, I can't remember. And I got some notes from people about, how could I let that happen? Well, look, I have on multiple occasions offered to retire that horse and bring him back to Kentucky. He has a spot at Old Friends, and he is, as soon as we can get him from his current connections down, then that's what we want to do. And we do work hard to find retirement homes for horses all the time. And the notion that we're ignoring that is ridiculous. And for those out there that wonder what's going on with him, I myself have been texting back and forth with the current owner, and he says his horse is doing okay, but he had a little infection in the leg, and hopefully they're getting that sorted out. But I'd like to get that horse in a good retirement. So that horse made over $1 million for us, Tiz the Bomb.
So somebody's trying to race it currently?
Well, they entered him in a race up east somewhere. I think a 7,000 claimer, and then he scratched. But I was told their intentions were to steeplechase him, which he would be good at because he was a grass horse. But I don't know where they are in that stage. But it's sometimes I get notes from people, and then there was another one that was complaining about some mare that I had named Miss Rudd, which is about 15 years ago. But that's one we gave money to someone to get her. She was in a bad place, and we gave money, or Michael Harrison did, and got her purchased and got her a good home. But there are people that spend a lot of energy on all that stuff, and we do our best to. Matter of fact, every horse that we retire ourselves, we find a spot for.
Amen. That's good. Anything else you want to touch on, Kenny, before we get out of here?
I don't think so. Just one foot in front of the other. Sales this weekend. I leave for Japan on the 9th.
Yep.
We will probably do a podcast from Japan.
Nice. Love it.
I'll have to figure out timing on that one, Teague.
Konnichiwa. I like it.
Yeah, right now they're 12 hours in front of us, I believe.
That's right. Well, that's all right. We'll figure that out. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll probably have to do a lot of video from over there, and then I'll cycle it back to you.
Love it. Boy, I tell you what, Japan is taking over the racing world. It's a good place to go visit right now.
Yeah, I'm excited to see their sale. I'm going to work their yearling sale.
I love it. Now, do you plan on purchasing anything, or are you just trying to kind of learn the ways?
I'm not planning on purchasing anything at this point. I just want to kind of scout it out and get an idea of the feel for it and how those horses might fit. And I don't know what the market bears. I have no idea if their purses are so strong. Can a guy like me come in and find value and justify going? So we'll let that play itself out.
I love it. So cool. All right, Kenny. Well, thank you so much for your time. And once again, to our listeners, please send in your questions. You are what make this show special. So send them in. We'll via email, put them on our YouTube, put them on our social, wherever, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. All right, Kenny.
See you at the races.
See you at the races.
All right.